What's up, everyone? Tony from the Cold Case Project, back again. And today, what I want to run with you over is all content shared in these videos is readily available in any Google search. Now, with that said, I take this content, have it rewritten, and upon rewriting it, put it in these videos to spread the word on the thousands and thousands of cold cases of men and women throughout the United States that are just forgotten, and I give this platform to them so their cases and their stories can be told. Now, in addition to that, if you look down below in the description, you're going to see some brand new t-shirt and coffee cup designs I've actually gotten from a couple of my subscribers who have over the years have been giving me some awesome fan art. So with that said, I'm offering a 20% discount code down below if you check that out, and splitting proceeds with them because they are awesome. Been watching me for quite some time, and I definitely think they deserve to be rewarded for some of the work they do on top of being full-time employees also. So once again, if you have any recommendations or any suggestions, comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the video. Like, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.
On March 25, 2011, 24-year-old Bianca Green vanished from her home in Romulus, Michigan, leaving behind a life full of promise. A dedicated nursing student, a loving mother, and a young woman determined to build a better future, her sudden disappearance made no sense. She left everything behind: her car, her clothes, and most heartbreakingly, her 4-year-old son, Jameer Jr. The last known communication from Bianca came in the form of cryptic text messages to her mother, Lisa Green, claiming she was leaving for a new beginning in Ohio. But Bianca never made it there. For 12 agonizing years, her family searched for answers. Then, in May 2023, a horrifying murder in Detroit put Bianca's case back in the spotlight. A well-respected nurse, Patrice Wilson, was abducted at gunpoint, and when her body was discovered in the trunk of her own car, the suspect named sent chills through those who knew Bianca. The man responsible was Jameer Miller Sr., the father of Bianca's son and a man with a violent history. Suddenly, a terrifying question arose. Was Bianca's disappearance in 2011 connected to the same man now accused of murder? Bianca, affectionately known as BB by those who loved her, was born on March 4, 1987. The eldest of 3 sisters, she was known for her sweet nature and trusting heart. She was especially devoted to her son, Jameer Jr., balancing the demands of motherhood with her studies in nursing at Wayne County Community College. To make ends meet, she worked long hours at the Earl's Sandwich Shop in the Detroit Metro Airport, often bringing lunch to her mother at work, a simple but meaningful gesture that showcased her caring personality. However, behind her gentle demeanor, Bianca faced mounting struggles. She was pregnant again, a fact she had confided in only a select few, and the stress of school, work, and an on-again, off-again relationship with Jameer Miller Sr. weighed heavily on her. Those close to her believed she was grappling with a difficult decision about her future, one that may have put her in danger. The last confirmed sighting of Bianca was on March 25, 2011, when she visited her mother at work, dressed in her usual uniform. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Lisa had no reason to believe it would be the last time she saw her daughter. Later that night, Lisa received a series of unsettling text messages from Bianca's phone. The messages said that she needed to leave and start over, and that she was going to Ohio and would call when she arrived. Something about these messages felt off. The phrasing was unusual, the tone uncharacteristic. Bianca was close with her mother. Why would she leave without a real goodbye? And why would she abandon her son? Then silence. Calls to Bianca's phone went straight to voicemail. Her car sat untouched in the driveway. Her purse, ID, and most of her belongings remained at home. Lisa knew immediately that something was wrong. Her daughter would never just walk away from her life, especially not from Jameer Jr. From the beginning. Authorities treated Bianca's case as a voluntary disappearance. There were no signs of forced entry or foul play, and police assumed she had left on her own. But Lisa refused to accept that explanation. She pushed for answers, but the evidence, or lack thereof, was chilling. Bianca hadn't withdrawn or spent any money from her accounts. Though her text messages claimed she was heading to Ohio, there were no bus, train, or plane tickets purchased in her name. Rumors swirled that Bianca had been seen in Atlanta, but none were verified. For months, Lisa kept Bianca's phone active, hoping for a call that never came. As years passed, leads dried up, the case grew colder, and Bianca's son, now growing up without his mother, was left only with questions. For 12 years, Bianca's case remained stagnant until May 2023, when the tragic murder of 29-year-old Patrice Wilson in Detroit reignited interest in her disappearance. Patrice, a nurse at Detroit Receiving Hospital, was leaving her shift when a man in a blonde wig ambushed her in the parking lot. Surveillance footage captured the horrifying moment as she was forced into her own vehicle at gunpoint. When police found Patrice's lifeless body in the trunk, all eyes turned to the suspect. Jameer Miller Sr. The connection was too disturbing to ignore. Miller had a documented history of violent behavior, with past arrests involving drugs, weapons, and domestic disputes. And, most chillingly, he was the last known romantic partner of Bianca Green before she vanished. The similarities between Bianca and Patrice's cases raised terrifying possibilities. Both women had been involved with Miller. Both disappeared under suspicious circumstances. Miller had a history of control and abuse. Though authorities have not formally linked Miller to Bianca's case, those who knew her believe it's more than a coincidence. Several theories have emerged over the years, each more unsettling than the last. Some believe that Miller harmed Bianca in 2011, just as he allegedly did to Patrice in 2023. There is speculation that the "I'm leaving" text was a cover-up sent by someone else. Others wonder if Bianca had been coerced into silence, possibly threatened into going into hiding, or worse, killed with her remains hidden. Perhaps the most chilling theory is the one Lisa fears most. Bianca was pregnant when she disappeared. What happened to the baby? If foul play was involved, did someone want to prevent the birth of that child? Today, Bianca Green would be 38 years old. Her son, Jameer Jr., is now a teenager, growing up with only memories of the mother he lost too soon. Lisa Green continues to fight for justice, refusing to let her daughter be forgotten. She has never stopped searching, never stopped hoping for the truth. The pain of not knowing is unbearable. As more details emerge about Miller's violent past, Lisa hopes that someone, anyone, will come forward with the truth about what happened to Bianca. Bianca Green was 5 feet tall, with brown hair and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a white shirt and black pants. If you have any information, no matter how small, please contact the Romulus Police Department at 941-8400 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-SPEAK-UP. On September 3, 1983, 16-year-old Joseph Gutierrez and his friend, Christopher Jedra, set out for what should have been a weekend of adventure. Dropped off by Christopher's parents in Sanborn Township, Michigan, the two boys pitched their tent in the South Point area near Alpena, right on the shores of Lake Huron. Their campsite was secluded, nestled in a wooded area approximately 50 feet from a shore. It was the perfect spot for two teenage boys looking to experience a taste of independence. But by the following day, their idyllic trip would take a tragic and baffling turn. When Christopher's parents arrived the next day to pick them up, the scene that greeted them was eerily still. The boys were gone. Their tent stood undisturbed, their t-shirts and underwear hanging from its sides as if left out to dry. Their pants lay abandoned on the ground, while inside the tent, their boots and unrolled sleeping bags remained. The most unsettling detail was their dog, still tethered to the tent. Though it had water, its food dish was empty. The boys had brought 3 cans of dog food with them, but had only used one. Something had stopped them from finishing their supplies. Panic quickly set in as Christopher's parents scoured the area, calling their names, searching for any sign of where they might have gone. There was no immediate evidence of a struggle, no upturned earth, no signs of an altercation, just an empty camp and silence. As authorities were called in, investigators started piecing together the boys' last known movements. It appeared that whatever had happened to them had occurred suddenly, leaving no time for them to pack up or take essentials with them. Search teams combed the area and nearby waters, but there was no sign of the boys. The mystery deepened until, on September 19th, Christopher's lifeless body was discovered floating half a mile offshore near North Point. His body bore no obvious signs of foul play, and an initial assessment suggested drowning. But Joseph was nowhere to be found. Despite exhaustive efforts by divers, search and rescue teams, and volunteers, his body never surfaced. Authorities concluded that both boys likely attempted to swim to Bird Island, a small landmass approximately half a mile offshore. While the waters in the area are relatively shallow, no more than 12 feet deep in most places, the lake's currents can be deceptively strong. Joseph, known to be a weak swimmer, would have struggled against even a moderate undertow. Christopher's recovered body lent credence to the theory that the boys had drowned, but many aspects of the case still left investigators puzzled. Why had the boys left their clothing behind? If they had decided to go swimming, wouldn't they have taken towels or even worn their swim trunks? And why was the dog left tied up at the campsite? If they had planned on making the swim, would they have simply abandoned the animal? Joseph and Christopher had met through the Sea Cadets, a program designed to prepare young people for potential careers in the Navy. Their shared interests in outdoor survival and adventure bonded them, making them eager for excursions like the one that ended in tragedy. Both boys were students, Christopher at Bishop Borges High School, Joseph at St. Florian High School. By all accounts, they were intelligent and responsible, making it all the more perplexing that they would have taken such a risk. With Joseph's body never recovered, theories and speculation have persisted for decades. Some believe the boys were caught off guard by a sudden change in weather. Lake Huron is known for its unpredictable conditions, and a quick shift in wind patterns can create treacherous waves, even in shallow waters. Others wonder if there was more to the story, if perhaps someone else was involved, leading to a confrontation that resulted in the boys entering the water under duress. As the years have passed, Joseph's disappearance has remained an open wound for his family and those who knew him. With no remains to bury, no definitive answers, they are left only with questions and the unsettling image of an abandoned campsite, a loyal dog waiting for a master who would never return. Although authorities have long since ruled the case an accidental drowning, the mystery lingers. What really happened on the shores of Lake Huron that fateful night? And why did one boy make it back while the other was never seen again? Christopher Halex's was last seen at a BP gas station in Paradise, Michigan. He purchased soda and snack foods and casually told the clerk he was heading into the wilderness to camp. It wasn't an unusual declaration. Halex's was known for his solitary treks deep into the woods, often off-trail, thriving in the solitude that others might find unsettling. But this time, he never returned. An extensive search of the area turned up no sign of Halex's himself, only his distinctive snowshoe tracks, leading for miles into the thick, tangled swamp of the Lake Superior State Forest. The tracks eventually vanished, as if he had simply been swallowed by the landscape. Halex's was not just any hiker. He was a survivalist, a man who had learned to adapt to the wilderness with little more than a knife and his instincts. He often spoke of the allure of the forest, the way it called to him. Over the years, he had developed a network of hidden caches, small stashes of supplies, and equipment buried deep in remote areas, ready for him whenever he needed them. He was known to create well-camouflaged lean-tos, nearly invisible to the untrained eye, blending seamlessly with the environment. He traveled light, but carried a meticulously selected set of tools, all of which were missing along with him. A bandless watch attached to his belt with cord wooden Alaskan-style 56-inch Iverson snowshoes with neoprene, laces an olive-colored nylon backpack, a USB drive on a leather lanyard, a pocket knife, and a silver Gerber multi-tool in a black nylon pouch a Bowie knife in a stiff black sheath strapped to his thigh, a high-quality compass strike anywhere kitchen matches, a plastic disposable lighter, and homemade wax-covered fire starters, a homemade whistle made from copper tubing, a candle, a flashlight, and various waterproof plastic boxes, 1 or 2 aluminum carabiners clipped to his belt loops, a handcrafted 7 or 8-foot polished wooden walking stick. Halex's was prepared for the elements, equipped with tools that allowed him to navigate and survive in near-total isolation. Yet, despite his expertise, he vanished without a trace. Authorities scoured the dense wilderness, deploying search teams, drones, and scent-tracking dogs, but the forest refused to give up its secrets. His disappearance left behind more questions than answers. Did he succumb to the elements? Unlikely, given his extensive survival skills. If he had been injured, surely he would have built a shelter or signaled for help. Was he the victim of foul play? Some believe he may have encountered something or someone in the woods that he could not escape. Others speculate that Halex is tired of the modern world, deliberately vanished, slipping deeper into the forest to live undisturbed, perhaps still out there, watching from the shadows. Some locals claim to have seen fleeting glimpses of a figure moving silently through the trees, disappearing before anyone could get close. Whether these stories are rooted in truth or simply legends born from mystery, one thing remains certain. Christopher Halex walked into the wild that day, and he has never been seen again. His case remains unsolved. On a warm summer morning in 1984, 13-year-old Kelly Harris climbed onto her red bicycle and pedaled away from her family's home in Jackson, Michigan. She never returned. Decades later, a shocking confession would reveal the horrifying truth behind her disappearance. But justice remains elusive. This is the tragic story of Kelly Harris, a young girl whose life was stolen far too soon. Kelly Jean Harris was born on April 29, 1971. She spent most of her childhood in Pasadena, Maryland, living with her father, but during the summer of 1984, she traveled to Jackson, Michigan, to stay with her mother, Carol, and her stepfather, Leonard Hugall. It was meant to be a special summer visit, a chance to reconnect with family and enjoy the freedom of being a young teenager. Kelly was known for her bright, adventurous spirit. She loved riding her bike through the neighborhood, drinking Tang on hot afternoons, and listening to the music of Michael Jackson. Her curiosity and independence made her stand out among her peers, but beneath her youthful energy was a girl already looking ahead to her future. She was excited about what was to come, especially her upcoming move to California, where she planned to live with her great-aunt and start a new school year. That future, however, would never come to pass. On the morning of August 10th, 1984, Kelly's mother, Carol, left for work early, as she usually did. Before heading out, she reminded Kelly to put her bicycle in the backyard. Kelly responded with a simple but heartfelt farewell. "I love you, Mom. Have a good day." Those would be the last words Carol ever heard from her daughter. That afternoon, when Carol returned home, Kelly was nowhere to be found. At first, she assumed Kelly was out riding her bike or visiting a friend. But as the hours stretched on, worry turned into fear. It wasn't long before Kelly's red bicycle was discovered abandoned at the entrance of Ellis Sharp Park, a few miles from home. Witnesses claimed they had seen Kelly purchasing a bus ticket to Detroit, a detail that led police to initially classify her as a runaway. But her family knew better. Kelly had left behind all of her belongings, including clothes, personal items, and even her most cherished things. She had no money, no reason to flee, and most importantly, she had been excited about the future. There was no logical reason for her to disappear on her own. Her mother pleaded with authorities to look deeper, but the runaway theory persisted, delaying crucial investigative efforts that could have uncovered the truth much sooner. As time passed, suspicion began to fall on one person: Kelly's stepfather, Leonard Hugall. From the beginning, something about his behavior seemed off. He showed no visible emotion when reporting Kelly missing. He avoided discussions about the case and acted indifferent to his stepdaughter's fate. But the most troubling detail was his past, a past filled with violent and disturbing crimes. Long before Kelly's disappearance, Hagall had already established a dark and predatory history. In 1969, at just 18 years old, he kidnapped a 12-year-old girl at gunpoint, holding her captive for 4 days before authorities caught him. His crime was so heinous that he was placed in a mental institution. Over the years, he continued to exhibit a pattern of abusive and predatory behavior. Despite this history, he remained free, living a seemingly ordinary life, until Kelly vanished. Carol, devastated by her daughter's disappearance, would later confront Hagall directly. Instead of answering her, he fled the house without explanation. That moment solidified her suspicions, but without physical evidence, law enforcement was unable to take action against him. The case went cold, and for more than 2 decades, Kelly's fate remained a mystery. Then, in 2006, everything changed. Hagall, by then serving a 50-year prison sentence in Florida for a brutal 1993 sexual assault, finally broke his silence. He confessed to murdering Kelly. The details he provided were chilling. He admitted to luring Kelly into his car by promising to take her to the county fair. Instead, he drove her to his workplace, St. John's School, where he assaulted her. He then murdered her and buried her in a shallow grave near Jackson Community College. Despite his confession, there was a devastating problem. Kelly's remains were never found. Investigators searched the area where Hagall claimed to have buried her, but after more than 20 years, the landscape had changed. Authorities speculated that animals had likely disturbed and scattered her remains over time, making recovery nearly impossible. One would think that Hagall's confession would lead to swift justice. However, due to legal technicalities, he could not be prosecuted for Kelly's murder until he completed his Florida sentence, a sentence not scheduled to end until 2033. By then, Hagall will be over 90 years old. The grim reality is that Kelly's killer may never face a courtroom for the crime he admitted to committing. For Carol Hagall, the pain of losing her daughter has never faded. She never stopped searching for answers, never stopped hoping for justice. On the 25th anniversary of Kelly's disappearance, she visited a memorial in Jackson, dressed in purple, Kelly's favorite color. As she stood there, she reflected on the life her daughter never got to live. If she had lived, she would have been a doctor, Carol said in an interview. She would have had children of her own. The heartbreak of what was lost lingers, an open wound that time has not healed. Kelly's case remains open. Authorities continue to urge anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. The Jackson Police Department tip line can be reached at 768-8640, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children can be contacted at 1-800-THE-LOST. Kelly Harris should be 52 years old today. Margaret Hoer was last seen at her home in White Cloud, Michigan, on July 20, 2005. A 51-year-old mother of 3, Margaret was known to have had a turbulent personal life, including a strained relationship with her estranged husband and difficulties in her romantic relationships. Her sudden disappearance, along with the chilling circumstances that followed, would leave her family searching for answers for years. According to reports, on the night of July 20th, Margaret had been out at a bar in Hesperia, Michigan, with her boyfriend. Sometime during the evening, her boyfriend's truck ran out of gasoline, leaving them stranded. In need of a ride home, Margaret reached out to her estranged husband, asking him to come pick her up. He refused, forcing Margaret to find an alternative way home. She ultimately managed to get a ride back, but what happened after she arrived remains a mystery. 2 hours later, Margaret called her husband again. This would be the last confirmed contact anyone had with her. She never showed up to any appointments, never contacted her children, and seemingly vanished in a thin air. Her absence was not reported immediately. Shockingly, it wasn't until August 10th, nearly 3 weeks later, that she was officially reported missing. By that point, any immediate investigative leads had grown cold. When authorities began looking into her disappearance, they made a disturbing discovery. Margaret's car was found burned in the driveway of her residence. The fire was deemed suspicious, raising serious concerns about foul play. If Margaret had left voluntarily, why would her vehicle be deliberately torched? Investigators found no sign of human remains in the burned-out car, deepening the mystery. The condition of the vehicle, along with the delayed missing person report, meant that crucial forensic evidence may have been lost. Margaret's family was adamant that she would never simply walk away from her life, especially without making arrangements for her youngest son, who was in the care of his father at the time. Her older children from a previous marriage also maintained that she was a devoted mother who would never willingly disappear without explanation. The investigation into her disappearance soon turned into a homicide inquiry. Rumors and speculation swirled, with various tips trickling in over the years. One particularly chilling lead suggested that Margaret's body had been placed in a barrel and disposed of in one of the many lakes in the area. In 2014, nearly a decade after she went missing, authorities launched a targeted search of several local lakes, hoping to uncover new evidence. Despite these efforts, no remains or physical proof of her fate were ever recovered. One of the more perplexing aspects of the case was Margaret's complex relationship with those in her life. She was in the middle of an ongoing separation from her husband, and tensions were reportedly high. Her boyfriend, the last known person to see her before she made her final phone call, also came under scrutiny. However, no arrests have ever been made in connection with her disappearance. Whether hidden secrets still lie beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered, or if the truth is lost forever, one thing remains certain. Margaret did not vanish without reason. Someone, somewhere, knows what happened to her. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Margaret Hoer, please contact the Michigan State Police or your local law enforcement agency. On a chilly April evening in 2013, the quiet lakeside community of Norton Shores, Michigan was shattered by a disappearance so perplexing it would haunt investigators for years. Jessica Marie Heringa, a 25-year-old gas station clerk and devoted mother, vanished during her late-night shift under circumstances so bizarre they seemed ripped from a crime thriller. What began as a routine night at work spiraled into one of Michigan's most infamous unsolved mysteries, a case filled with eerie clues, dead-end leads, and a predator who hid in plain sight before finally being unmasked years later. Jessica's story began on July 16, 1987, when she was born into a working-class family in Norton Shores. Described by friends as the girl who lit up every room, Jessica grew up with Midwestern values, hardworking, kind, and deeply devoted to her family. By 2013, she was a single mother to her 4-year-old son, John, working as a manager at the local ExxonMobil gas station to provide for him. Those who knew Jessica spoke of her radiant smile and tireless work ethic. She often picked up extra shifts, saving money with dreams of going to college to study accounting. She wanted more for her son. Her mother would later say through tears. She was going to make something of herself. The evening of April 26 started like any other Friday night. Jessica arrived for her 4:35 p.m. shift at the Exxon station on Sternberg Road, a lone employee working the counter as she had countless times before. Surveillance footage showed her moving about the brightly lit store, ringing up customers, restocking shelves, occasionally stepping outside for a smoke break. At 10:52 p.m., she completed her last recorded transaction, a $1.39 sale for a cigarette lighter. Her half-empty pack of Newport 100s sat abandoned on the counter beside the register, a silent testament to how suddenly her normal night had been interrupted. Just 15 minutes later, at 11:07 p.m., a customer walked in to find the station eerily empty. The door was unlocked, lights blazing, music still playing, but no Jessica. Her purse sat untouched in the back room with $420 inside. Her car keys and cell phone remained behind counter. Most chilling of all, investigators found a single drop of Jessica's blood near the back door, along with a small plastic cap from a Walther P22 pistol's laser sight and 2 watch batteries scattered on the floor. Witness accounts painted a disturbing picture of the moments surrounding Jessica's disappearance. Several people reported seeing a suspicious silver minivan, likely a Chrysler Town & Country, lingering near the gas station that night. One customer, Chris Christian, recalled seeing a disheveled man in his 30s with wavy brown hair and an orange or red sweatshirt repeatedly opening and closing the van's rear doors around 11 p.m. Security footage from a nearby business captured a silver minivan driving past the Exxon station at 11:04 p.m., just minutes before Jessica was reported missing. The vehicle matched the description perfectly, but with no license plate visible, the lead went cold. In the days following Jessica's disappearance, investigators chased numerous leads that ultimately went nowhere. Dakota Quayle Dyer, Jessica's longtime boyfriend and father of her son, was initially suspected due to their sometimes rocky relationship. However, his alibi held. Phone records confirmed he was home with John all night. Jess Ammerman, a married plumber who had confessed his feelings to Jessica earlier that evening, underwent intense questioning but was cleared after passing a polygraph. Rob Failer, brother of the gas station's manager, was investigated after witnesses said he'd spoken to Jessica about personal problems that night. His fishing alibi checked out. For months, the case grew colder. Then, in 2016, a stunning break came from an unrelated crime nearly 50 miles away. In May 2016, a 16-year-old girl miraculously escaped from a would-be kidnapper in Muskegon County. Her description of the assailant and his silver minivan matched the suspect in Jessica's case. Police soon identified him as Jeffrey Thomas Willis, a 46-year-old factory worker with no prior criminal record. When authorities searched Willis's van, they found a nightmarish collection of items: a .22 caliber Walther P22 pistol, handcuffs, ropes, and duct tape, syringes filled with unknown substances, a hidden hard drive containing folders labeled victims, including subfolders for Jessica Heringa and Rebecca Blech. Further investigation revealed Willis had been a regular customer at Jessica's gas station. Phone records placed him there at least 15 times before her disappearance. Most damning of all, a witness who had visited the station the night before Jessica vanished recalled Willis making an ominous comment. "Don't worry, Jessica has customers who look after her." Willis's cousin, Kevin Bloom, initially lied to investigators but later confessed that Willis had shown him Jessica's body and forced him to help bury her in a remote forest. Though Bloom led police to the general area, Jessica's remains were never found. In 2018, Willis was convicted of Jessica's kidnapping and murder, adding to his existing life sentences for the murders of Rebecca Blech and the attempted kidnapping of the 16-year-old girl. Yet without Jessica's body, her family remains trapped in agonizing limbo. Her son John, now a teenager, is being raised by relatives. The gas station where Jessica worked has since been demolished, but her memory lives on in vigils and memorials throughout Norton Shores. Despite Willis's conviction, haunting questions remain. Where exactly is Jessica's body? Was Willis working alone, or did he have accomplices? How many other victims might be connected to his victims folder? Jessica's case serves as a grim reminder that evil often wears an ordinary face. It took 3 years, 2 other violent crimes, and a miraculous escape to finally unmask her killer. Proof that some monsters hide in plain sight until their luck runs out. If you have any information about Jessica Heringa's disappearance, please contact the Norton Shores Police Department at 733-2691. "14-year-old Nazia Harris was last seen alive on January 9th, 2024, after leaving her Detroit middle school. What began as an ordinary Tuesday would become the last day her family saw her smiling face. This is the heartbreaking story of a young girl's disappearance, the predator who took her, and the evidence that finally brought him to justice. Nazia Harris was a typical 8th grader at J.E. Clark Preparatory Academy. On that January morning, she boarded the school bus as usual, carrying her tablet and wearing her school clothes. During the school day, she sent a message to Jarvis Ramon Butts, a man who had insinuated himself into her family's life. After school, surveillance cameras capture Nazia meeting Butts at an auto repair shop on Connor Street. Witnesses reported seeing them leave with one of Butts' co-workers, traveling together to Ypsilanti before returning to Detroit later that afternoon. As evening fell, Nazia's adoptive mother grew worried when the 14-year-old didn't return home by 6 p.m. She began searching the neighborhood, calling friends and relatives, but wouldn't contact police until the following morning, a decision that would haunt her in the coming days. Several days after Nazia vanished, a grim discovery was made near 7 Mile and Berg Road, close to the Rouge River. Passers-by found items strewn along the riverbank. Nazia's school identification card lay in the dirt. Her earphones were tangled in nearby brush. Most disturbingly, investigators recovered pieces of the clothing she had worn that day, garments torn in a manner suggesting a violent struggle. Forensic analysis would later confirm the presence of Jarvis, Butts' DNA on these items. Cell phone records placed his device in this exact location during the late-night hours following Nazia's disappearance. When first questioned by detectives, Butts claimed he barely knew Nazia. He admitted she sometimes did odd jobs at his auto repair shop, but insisted he hadn't seen her since late December. These lies quickly unraveled as investigators uncovered digital evidence. Text messages revealed Butts had been sexually grooming Nazia since September 2022, when she was just 12 years old. The exchanges grew increasingly explicit, with Butts coaxing the young girl into sending inappropriate photos of herself. By September 2023, the situation took a darker turn. Nazia confided in Butts that she had missed her menstrual period. His subsequent internet searches told a chilling story, frantic queries about abortion methods, including the dangerous suggestion of drinking red antifreeze. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered Butts' horrifying history. Prosecutors would later describe him as a serial child predator with a specific pattern. He would befriend single mothers to gain access to their young daughters. Court records showed Butts had previously been charged with assaulting 2 other girls, one between 8 and 10 years old, the other just 4 to 6 years old. These cases, dating back to 2012, painted a picture of a predator who had been operating with impunity for over a decade. In October 2024, prosecutors charged Jarvis Ramon Butts with first-degree premeditated murder, abusive activity, and second-degree criminal conduct in Nazia's case. Authorities believe Butts may have killed Nazia while attempting to terminate her pregnancy through dangerous means. Without her remains, they cannot say for certain how she died, but the evidence leaves little doubt about who took her life. Nazia's adoptive mother, who had raised her since infancy as her own daughter, now faces an unimaginable loss. The community has rallied around the family, holding vigils and calling for stronger protections against predators like Butts. Many questions remain unanswered. Why did Butts target Nazia? How did he maintain access to children for so many years? And most painfully, where is Nazia's body? Nazia Harris remains missing. If you have any information about this case, no matter how insignificant it may seem, please contact the Detroit Police Department at 313-267-4600 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THELOST. Derek Henigan was last seen on the evening of August 4, 2008, in Newberry, Michigan. The 35-year-old had been staying temporarily at a neighbor's house after a dispute with his live-in girlfriend. Around 4:30 p.m. that day, he was seen walking into the woods across from the neighbor's home, reportedly heading to a meeting spot, a deer blind, where he was supposed to rendezvous with his girlfriend. She arrived at the designated location, but Derek never showed up. He has not been seen or heard from since. 3 days before he vanished, Derek had made several phone calls to Hartford, Michigan, where he had grown up. He reached out to friends and family, asking for a ride back home, but it's unclear if he ever managed to arrange one. His father had purchased a bus ticket for him to return home to his family downstate, as he did not own a car, but Derek never used the ticket. At the time of his disappearance, Derek was working as a traveling car salesman. Friends and family described him as a social person with a love for sports, fishing, and outdoor activities like camping. However, he had a tendency to become belligerent when intoxicated and had been involved in several altercations with men in the area. He was known to be a devoted father, frequently calling his young son in Kalamazoo, Michigan, every night. His girlfriend was pregnant at the time he went missing, and 4 months later, she gave birth to his second son. Derek had several outstanding misdemeanor warrants, primarily for failure to appear in court, but his family insisted that he had never gone into hiding to avoid legal trouble. Given his history of maintaining contact with his loved ones, his sudden disappearance was highly uncharacteristic and raised immediate concerns. As investigators dug deeper into Derek's case, a chilling lead emerged. One of his acquaintances, Austin Bradley Austin, had been arrested and charged with murder. Austin had allegedly killed his girlfriend in 2006 and buried her body in his yard. Her remains were not discovered until 2011, 3 years after Derek went missing. Authorities explored whether Austin might have been involved in Derek's disappearance, but they have not publicly confirmed if he was ever considered suspect. Over the years, numerous searches have been conducted in the remote wooded areas where Derek was last seen, but no trace of him has ever been found. Authorities have long suspected foul play, and in June 2016, Derek Henigan was officially declared legally dead. His case is now classified as a homicide. Despite the passage of time, Derek's disappearance remains an enduring mystery. Investigators urge anyone with knowledge of Derek's whereabouts or the circumstances surrounding his disappearance to contact law enforcement. Until then, his fate remains unknown, lost in the shadows of the Michigan wilderness. October 31st, 1969 should have been a night filled with the usual excitement and celebration in Oscoda, Michigan. The crisp autumn air was charged with anticipation as students prepare for the big homecoming game and Halloween festivities. But for two teenage girls, Pamela Hoby and Patricia Spencer, this would become the night they vanished without a trace. Over 50 years later, their disappearance remains one of Michigan's most haunting cold cases. Pamela Hoby, a bright, ambitious student, had a promising future ahead of her. She had recently gotten engaged, full of dreams about the future, and she was looking forward to spending Halloween night with her friends at the homecoming event. Patricia Spencer, while not Pamela's closest friend, was equally excited about the evening's festivities. The two girls had been seen together that afternoon, possibly skipping the final classes of the day, Oscoda High School. Witnesses later reported seeing Pamela and Patricia walking along River Road around 3:30 p.m., headed away from the school toward Oscoda's business district. In 1969, hitchhiking was still relatively common, and a passing motorist, later cleared by investigators, offered them a ride. The driver said he took them to a gas station at the intersection of River Road and Interstate 23, the last confirmed sighting of the two girls. From that moment, both Pamela and Patricia disappeared without a trace. As evening descended on Halloween night, two troubling facts emerged that would haunt the investigation for years to come. Neither girl was carrying a purse or any form of identification, which seemed odd given the occasion. Moreover, both had fully intended to attend the homecoming events that evening. Pamela's sister would later explain to investigators she was excited about her engagement, about the dance. She wouldn't have just left. These remarks underscored a central mystery, the idea that these girls, who had everything to look forward to, would suddenly and voluntarily vanish seemed implausible to those who knew them best. In the wake of their disappearance, the investigation initially categorized the girls as possible runaways, speculating that they might have traveled to Flint. However, as weeks turned into months and no contact was made and no bank activity was detected, law enforcement began to reconsider their theory. More troubling questions arose as time passed. Why would two girls who weren't particularly close friends disappear together? What could possibly cause them to leave behind their belongings on the night of such an important event? And did anyone at the gas station where they were last seen have any interaction with them after they left the ride? Over the years, the investigation has pursued several leads, but none have yielded any concrete answers. One prevailing theory is the hitchhiking angle. While the driver who gave him a ride was cleared, there remains the possibility that the girls were picked up by another driver after they left the gas station. In 1969, Interstate 23 was a major trucking route, with countless travelers passing through Oscoda on a daily basis. The vast number of vehicles on that road made it hard to pinpoint who else could have been passing through that night, and what their intentions might have been. A second theory centers on a more local connection. Some speculated that the girls might have encountered someone they knew, perhaps someone from their school or the surrounding community. Given the rural nature of Oscoda, it was plausible that the girls could have trusted someone they knew well enough to accept a ride or go somewhere with them. However, no evidence has surfaced to confirm this theory. Then, there's the possibility that the two girls met separate predators that same afternoon. While the odds of two different people targeting them seemed incredibly slim, the lack of any concrete evidence linking their disappearances has left this theory on the table, though the circumstances make it feel like a tragic coincidence. For Pamela's sister, the quest for answers has never stopped. She still holds on to the hope of finding out what truly happened that night. In interviews with local reporters, she's made it clear that her family is just seeking the truth. "I just want to know what happened," she said. "After all these years, that's all we're asking for." Despite the lack of any physical evidence, such as bodies or a crime scene, the case continues to grow colder with each passing year, leaving behind a painful void for the families involved. The mystery of Pamela Hoby and Patricia Spencer's disappearance remains open. Authorities urge anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. Anyone with tips can contact the Oscoda Township Police Department at 739-9111 or submit anonymous tips to Michigan Crime Stoppers at 1-800-SPEAK-UP.